Hello everybody, it's Mr. Barbier back with another video. Today's lesson is solving linear inequalities. So if you remember how to solve linear equations very well, then guess what? This topic, solving linear inequalities, is going to be a breeze for you. All right, so let's get right into it. Step one, draw a line going down the inequality symbol. So ladies and gentlemen, we always do that. When we're solving linear equations, we draw that line. And when we solve linear inequalities, we also draw that line. Okay, nothing changes. Step two, follow the same steps for solving linear equations and solve for the variable. So like I said, if you're good with solving linear equations, then step two is going to be a breeze for you. Step three, note, if you divide or multiply both sides of the inequality by a negative number, you must flip the inequality symbol. So that is one of the major differences with solving linear equations and solving linear inequalities, is that if we divide or multiply both sides of the inequality by a negative number, you must flip the inequality symbol. Okay, let's go right into a problem and then you'll see how to do it. Now, again, this here is your classwork, so I'm not going to do it for you. Okay, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions. No, actually more than that, 8 questions for classwork. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to look at an example that I've written here in my notebook, okay? So here we go. Solving linear inequalities, solve for the variable. Let's follow the steps that I just talked about. So step one, draw what I call my beautiful line going down the equal sign. So let's do it, ladies and gentlemen, right here. Okay, remember, just like with solving linear equations, that line separates my inequality into two sides. Okay, now let me say one more thing really quick. Why is this called an inequality? The word in, means not. Okay, it's a prefix for not. So inequality stands for not equal to. An equation has an equal sign, right? Which means the left side is equal to the right side. But with an inequality, it's a symbol that's not an equal sign. It's an inequality symbol, all right? And there are 4 of them. Let's talk about that really quick before we move on. So there are 4 inequality symbols, and here they are, okay? We have less than, which looks like that. Okay, notice the arrow is pointing to the left. Greater than, in this case, there's an open mouth open to the left. Okay, so remember, whenever we read from left to right. So if I put a 3 here and a 5 here, I'm saying 3 is less than 5. Okay, but if I put an 8 here and a 2 here, I'm saying 8 is greater than 2. Because as I read from left to right, I'm saying 8, imagine there's an 8 right here, 8, and as I go to the right, I hit the open mouth. Whenever I hit the open mouth, I say greater than. So 8 is greater than, imagine again a 2 here. 8 is greater than 2, but if over here, say I have a 2 and a 6, I'm saying 2, I'm hitting the pointy part, so that pointy part tells me to say less than. 2 is less than 6, for example. Another way to look at it is like this, right? This open mouth is like an alligator. Now, some kids say they think of, the video game Pac-Man. Whichever works better for you. I like thinking of it as an alligator. The alligator's mouth is always open to the bigger number. Okay, so if the bigger number is on the left, the mouth is open to the left. If the bigger number is on the right, the mouth will be open to the right, because the alligator is always going to face the number that's bigger because he's hungry. And the bigger number represents more food. Okay, so less than is that symbol, greater than is this symbol. Let's look at these two. This is called less than or equal to. Now notice it looks just like the less than symbol up here, except now it has an extra line underneath it. Now you might say, Mr. Barbie, what's that line there for? Guys, that line is basically the bottom half of an equal sign, okay? It's an equal sign, but just the bottom instead of both of them, the top and bottom. So the way we read this is we say less than or equal to, okay? That's what the symbol means. And now this one means greater than or equal to, because notice it's the greater than symbol, but with, again, half of an equal sign underneath the symbol. All right, so those are the 4 inequality symbols. Okay, we're going to look at this page a little bit later when we talk about something called graphing the solution set. But right now, I just want to show you the 4 inequality symbols. All right, getting back to the problem. So this problem says negative 2x plus 8 is less than 20. Okay, how do we solve for the variable? Just the same way that we solve for the variable in solving linear equations. What do? We draw the line. What do we do after that? We look to combine like terms on the same side first. Are these 2 like terms? No, so I can't combine them. And then this term is by itself on the right side. So now I look to see if I can combine like terms on opposite sides. Where do you see like terms on opposite sides? Okay, someone just said, Mr. Barbie, I see positive 8 and positive 20 on opposite sides of the line. They are called constant terms, right? Because they don't have a variable with them, associated with it. Just a number standing alone. It's called a constant term. Okay, this is called a variable term because I have a coefficient, negative 2, and I have a variable x. Okay, so this is a variable term. I cannot combine a variable term and a constant term, but I can combine a constant term and a constant term. Now, if I want to combine 2 constant terms on opposite sides of the line, what do? Well, I have to remember my famous rhyme, right? When you cross the line, you change the sign. So let's do that. We are going to take the positive 8, cross the line, and write underneath 20, negative 8. So that I can combine 20 and negative 8. Because again, remember, when I cross the line, I change the sign. Now, what I do to one side, I must do to the other. So the negative 8 will also go underneath the positive 8, right? And now I draw my line all the way across. And because if I have 8 and I owe 8, right, I'm left with nothing, these 2 8s will cancel, all right? And the negative 2x gets dropped straight down, but move it over to the right, close to the line, okay? Never just drop it straight and leave a big gap. Remember, gaps lead to mistakes. So always drop it and move it over. Okay, so I'm gonna move it over and I'm gonna write it basically right here underneath the, let me put it here so that I give myself plenty of room. Okay, drop the inequality symbol, the less than. If I have $20, but I owe $8, what am I left with in my pocket? Okay, what was that? Oh, okay, very good. So 12, that's correct. Right? If you can't do that mentally, ladies and gentlemen, just do it, the old-fashioned way. I can't take 8 from 0, so borrow from the 2, make it a 1, and make the 0 a 10, and 10 minus 8 is 2, and drop the 1. Okay? Now that I'm here, folks, I want the x alone. What do? Okay, very good. I'm going to divide both sides by the coefficient. What's the coefficient? Okay, someone just said it's negative 2. Remember, keep the sign of the coefficient. Do not change the sign when dividing or multiplying both sides. The sign stays. Don't tell me the negative 2 becomes a positive 2 because you're crossing the line. You only do that when you combine like terms, right? We're not combining like terms. We are dividing both sides by the coefficient. So the sign stays the same. Now, what happens to the 2 negative 2's? They cancel. I drop the x. Now, do me a favor, ladies and gentlemen. Do not drop the inequality symbol yet. Not yet. Let's just continue finishing this part here. Let's finish solving this. So what's 12 divided by negative 2? Remember, a positive divided by a negative is a what? Okay, someone just said it's a negative because the signs are different. Very good. And negative what? Negative 6. Now stop here. Folks, what did we just read a few minutes ago, right? That very important step 3. Let me remind you, let's bring it back. Step 3 said that if you divide or multiply both sides of the inequality by a negative number, you must what? Flip the inequality symbol. So ladies and gentlemen, let's look at that problem. Did I divide both sides by a negative? Yes, we divided by a negative 2. So since we divided both sides of the inequality by a negative number, this less than symbol now becomes, check this out, ladies and gentlemen, it gets flipped and it becomes greater than. So the final answer is x is greater than negative 6. Now, I want to make that very clear. Please pay attention. Do you flip the inequality symbol all the time? Absolutely not. Okay? We do not flip it all of the time. We only flip it when, on my last step, if I divide both sides by a negative, or if I multiply both sides by a negative. If you remember in our previous video, when we learned how to solve linear equations with fraction coefficients, right? Sometimes we had to multiply both sides by the denominator if we use that method, or if we multiply both sides by the reciprocal, correct? The reciprocal of the fraction coefficient. For example, let me show you a problem really quick. Right? If you're looking at this, notice, right? My coefficient is a fraction, which means that to get the x alone, I would have to either multiply both sides by the denominator 5, or multiply both sides by the reciprocal 5/3. Now, I don't do that first. Obviously, I combine like terms first, right? I would add 14 to both sides, do that first. And then after I do that, I would either multiply both sides by 5 or multiply both sides by 5/3, which is the reciprocal of 3/5. So in that situation, I'm multiplying both sides. But here's the deal. If I'm multiplying both sides by a, look at this example, by a negative, then I must flip the inequality symbol. Okay, so I'm giving you a little bit of a heads up, all right, on your classwork. So check it out, right? I have to get this x alone after I combine both sides, the constants, right? If I add 6 on both sides, do that first. And then when I'm left with my negative 2/5 x, I know that I have to multiply both sides in order to get the x alone. So if I multiply both sides by 5/2, which is the reciprocal of 2/5, it has to be negative. I keep the negative, and therefore the inequality symbol flips from greater than or equal to less than or equal to. Let's keep that in mind. All right, but let's just finish this real quick. And again, going back here, the answer is x is greater than negative 6. That is my solution for that problem. I am done. So you will be doing that, ladies and gentlemen, for your classwork problems here, where it says solve for the variable. Okay, you have 8 problems to solve for the variable. All right. As a matter of fact, you know what I'm going to do? Let's do one more. Let's do number 3. Why not? Since I have it right here in front of you, I'll give you one freebie. I'm breaking my own rules. Okay, I'll give you one freebie from the classwork. Let's look at number 3. So we're solving for the variable. Let's go. First, what do? Don't forget to draw my beautiful line. Everybody, let's go. Beautiful line. Okay, there it is. You know what to do, don't you? What? What do I do? Okay, yes, we add 6 on both sides. Very good. Okay, when you cross the line, you change the sign. All right. These two 6s will what? Cancel. All right. And I bring down the negative 2/5 x. Bring down the inequality symbol, which is greater than or equal to. What's 14 plus 6? Someone tell me. Okay, very good. It is 20. All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, you've learned this before. What are we going to do? We want the x alone. Now, I taught you 2 methods. You can either multiply both sides by the denominator and then divide by the numerator, or just multiply both sides by the reciprocal of this fraction. So either way, you're going to get the right answer. Just make sure that you assign, if you're not going to use the reciprocal method, if you're going to say multiply both sides by the 5, then that negative assigns to the 2, right? That's going to be a negative 2, right? So just keep that in mind. That's very, 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 very important. But you know what we're going to do? Let's do it the reciprocal way, okay? Let's multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So negative 2/5, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, which means I flip the fraction and becomes what? Very good. It becomes 5/2. But folks, guess what? You see that negative? I keep the negative. I keep the sign. Okay? It doesn't become a positive. It stays a negative. Just because I flip the fraction doesn't mean the sign becomes a positive. No, it stays a negative. Now, what I do to one side, I must do to the other side. So I'm going to multiply 20 by negative 5/2. Okay? What happens to the left side? Well, the 5 cancels out the 5. The 2 cancels out the 2. And because a negative times a negative is a positive, that gives me a positive 1x, which is the same thing as just x. Okay? Now, let's solve this side. I'm multiplying 20, a whole number, by a fraction. How do I do that? Okay, very good. I put it over 1. Now, you all know that I can just multiply straight across, numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator, or I can cross cancel, also known as cross simplify, correct? So what do you want to do? You decide. Okay, someone just said, Mr. Barbier, I'd like to cross cancel. Let's do it. Where can we cross cancel? Okay, I just heard someone say that I can divide 2 by 2, and I can divide 20 also by 2. You are correct. So, what's 20 divided by 2? This becomes a 10. Very good. And what's 2 divided by 2? That becomes a 1. Okay, I'm a big fan of cross-canceling. I do recommend that students do it and do it often. So now we have 10 over 1. Let me write that down right here. We have 10 over 1 times, don't forget the negative sign. That negative is still there, it didn't go away. Negative what? 5 over 1. Yes? So let's multiply straight across now. 10 times negative 5 is what? Someone just said negative 50. And 1 times 1 is what? Okay, positive 1. And let's not forget, anything over 1 is a what? Is a whole number. So this becomes just negative 50. All right, now let's get back here. Now some of you are saying, Mr. Barbier, how come you didn't bring down the inequality symbol? Because I wanted to see if you knew what I'm bringing down exactly. So here's my question, everybody. Here's my question. Did we multiply or divide both sides by a negative number? Look back. Yes, we did. We multiplied both sides by a what? By a negative 5 over 2. Negative 5 over 2. So since I multiplied or divided, in this case I multiplied, both sides by a negative, this greater than or equal to becomes what? Someone tell me? Okay, very good. It becomes less than or equal to. Very good. So that means my answer now is x is what? Less than or equal to negative 50. There it is. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so just did with you on this video one of your classwork problems, okay? You should be good with the rest. Now, that is only one piece of your work, right? Solving for the variable. But guess what? That's not it. There's one more thing we have to learn. We have to learn how to graph the solution set. Okay, so guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to save this for next time, all right? Because I want you to have plenty of practice with what we just learned. So focus on this for now, all right? Just focus on this for now. And on our next video, part 2 of this video, we will learn how to solve linear inequalities by graphing the solution set. Okay, so right now you have to do for homework 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, I think it's plenty of work for you to do. Make sure you get it done. Do your best. And ladies and gentlemen, I will see you in the next video. Take care.